Hello y'all on YouTube, this is Rob from Rob's Nerdy Knives. Today I have a very interesting Rob's Ramblings about a topic I think is kind of interesting. The question is really, did you get the latest drop from insert new knife name here? That's really what I wanted to talk about. Sometimes I feel like it can be a little bit of keeping up with the Joneses when you're in a knife community, which, you know, is fair because there's honestly, there's a lot of great designs coming out. And there's a lot of cool new stuff coming out that makes it like there's a lot of Joneses I'd like to keep up with, quite honestly, right? There's a lot of knives I wish I could get in on. If I had unlimited funds and had the perfect timing, I would get in on them all. I suspect if I had that kind of money and that kind of revenue, I could probably afford to get in on them all by being a generous benefactor to some of these new folks, and that would get them into their good graces. But I'm not. I'm one of the lowly guys that has to, find the knife when it's available and when I have the funds for it, right? But the question here is really, a lot of people will get the latest drop here, the latest drop there. Now, there are some drops that I am all in for. I really want to get, right? And then there's some drops that, I don't know, I would love to get, but they feel like it would be impossible to get, right? I just don't think I have enough clout or enough money or the ability to get it fast enough, because sometimes there are things you have to pre-order. I've been burned on a pre-order before, and I gotta be honest with you, I love the knife that I pre-ordered, and it happens to be right here. It's my Urban EDC LC. Love this knife. It took almost a year to come in. It was the longest pre-order I've ever had, and I'm sure some of you guys had even longer, but it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. I'm not really cool about waiting a whole year for a knife like that. Now, I wasn't disappointed except for one thing. Now, the clip on here was beautiful in this design, right? However, this right here underneath, this part right here, sadly, this part right here was flat, and it was really, really digging in against pants, and it would rip the pants. And matter of fact, I know a couple other knife reviewers, when they talked about putting it in their pocket, it did rip their pants. But I explained how I have a Worksharp belt sander, the Ken Onion attachment to my Worksharp sharpener, and I put the grit on there, and then I smoothed it down to the buffing, and I just rounded that out. It's not flat pushing down against it, and it slides in and out really easily and smoothly now. So it goes on in and out of the pant pockets really, really nicely. And that was the one thing they missed on this. This makes this knife just about perfect, as close to the full Trevor Berger custom design that this is kind of designed off of. Now, his customs are way nicer. There's no doubt about that, right? I would love to get one of his custom designs. That would be super awesome, but they're out of my budget range. And now, even if I were to have the budget and the free funds to come up to buy one of these, they're all gone. There were some that dropped, and I really would love to get his large version of this that they had dropped over, I think, on Knife Joy, but that's gone. They do have a Mokutai version that's only $2,000 if you got $2,000 sitting around on your table with not knowing what to do with. I don't, so that's not for me, right? So there are those knives that, did I get the latest drop from? No. The answer is going to be no, I didn't. And then there's going to be those that yeah, I did. And some of them were like, man, I didn't have to wait for that. That really, it's nice, but I didn't want to just get the latest drop, right? I got the latest drop in this as soon as it came out. Beautiful knife, no regrets. I think it's a fantastic knife. Everything about it is wonderful. I mean, I did have to fix, like I said, the clip. Otherwise, this is great. But the time made me kind of regret pre-ordering it. I think this was like you could buy this this one early, and I waited till it came out, and then I bought it. And I enjoy it. Now, this got caught up in customs for like 4 or 5 weeks, which made this delivery really, really long. It was out in California forever to clear. So I was kind of bummed about that. But I enjoy the knife. I don't know if I'd pre-order it. I'm happy to get it. I'm glad they're making more so I don't have to have a limited run of it. It's the same for this. I've had a Nimble and I had a Nimble Tonto, and I love those. But I always had an issue because it had a flipper here. When you open up that knife, it would be over here, and when I dropped it, it would always get stuck on my finger. And in order for me to clear it, what would happen is it would get just down here with this blade, that little where the choil of the sharpening choil is. That edge would like hit the knife, or
I wouldn't really be able to catch it. So it would like dig into my nail, or sometimes would cut me up here. And I loved the knife. It was just, I don't know if it's because it was too small and my hands were too big and meaty, or if it was just that alone. But when I saw this, I thought this might just be perfect. I didn't pre-order it. I didn't get in on it. I missed out. I didn't have the funds at the time when it became available. And it sold out so fast. But then he had a special drop when he took more pre-orders for the LMAX version. This is the CPM 20CV version. So this is the USA Crucible metal version, which is equivalent to M390. And the LMAX version is going to be another version that's very similar, right? I love LMAX, by the way. Matter of fact, I've got LMAX on this blade. This is an LMAX steel on this one here. That's really good steel, right? So, but I love 20CV. And so I was able to buy this when he had some available. Everyone was going for the MagnaCut version that they had, and I went down and got this. It's everything I wanted. I wanted the titanium plain, you know, milled out. And some of his other versions that, ooh, this is, so yeah, you see stuff from my pants right here. That's because they were already ripped up from my Chris Reeve Umnumzon that I sold. It tore the heck out of my pants with that bead or rock, I guess rock blast or rock sandblasted, rock blasted, whatever it was. It was a rough, you know, finish on there that really tore up my pants. So ever since then, other clips just grab a little bit of that until I throw those pants out. But they're still good pants if it wasn't for that rip, right? Anyways, I love this design. I love everything about this aesthetics, everything how it worked together. So I was really happy to get this. One of my favorite knives. I think this is the best EMP EDC knife that they have right now. Now they do have the what is it? The Nimble Plus. I think it is Nimble Plus, and that looks phenomenal. I would love to have gotten in on that. That does look pretty good, and it does have the flipper, so I'm kind of curious if that fixes the issue with the flipper, if I can clear it and just get past it, because that was always what really bothered me. I love knives, and I love getting the latest version of something, and it works. But it's so disappointing if you get it, and you take the chance, you buy it before you see all the reviews, because I love to listen to the reviews, everyone's experience, things that they notice, something that they bothers them, that I can immediately say, yeah, that would bother me, right? So I look for that, and I try to be honest in my experiences, my reviews, everything that I've noticed that bothers me, right? I want the knife to be fidgety. I want it to be enjoyable. I want to be able to use it and have fun with it, fidget, you know, everything. I don't want it just to be something that's nice in a collection and I don't do anything with, or it's really impossible to get out and I have to cut open like that and then use it, and I gotta, you know, do this and put it, you know, it's gotta be fun. It's gotta be quick, you know, I gotta be able to use it. I mean, this is a tool, but it's also a fidget tool, right? So I want to be able to do that. So I was able to get that, but I waited. I didn't get the latest drop on that. The same with this. They had dropped some of these, and it was like in a, I think, aluminum topocarbon kind of carbon fiber. Didn't really like that. And then they had a red, white, and blue fat carbon. Didn't like that design. So I didn't like any of those designs. And so they came out with an all black with the carbon fiber. Well, they knew I'd had some issues with the black one before, and they were like, hey, you know, do you want to try this? And they were willing to swap it out with this one, so I didn't have the micarta version, because they did this one in a micarta. Not a micarta fan. I'm just not, right? I'm just not a big deal. I mean, it's okay. If you like micarta, go for it, man. I have a few micarta things, not a whole lot. I'm just not a huge micarta fan. Not my cup of tea, but I have a few things. I have a Enrique Pena Trapper. I have a QSP Pyrite limited edition with the titanium scales with a black micarta inlay and an S35 VN steel. It's a limited edition one. Those are cool, but I have a few, and they're very specific, right? Otherwise, I'm not a huge micarta fan, right? And I was able to get that. Now, I waited. I didn't get it right as it dropped. So I was super happy to get that. Likewise with this one. I heard the hype. I heard everything. I know they came out with the Sagai pattern that they had. Beautiful. Thought about it. But again, it looked like, oh, it's a fuller hole. Would I like that? That doesn't look like it'd be a whole lot of fun. You know, I thought, would I enjoy that? Is there a lot to be found in that? And then, you know, they had a special sale on this. It was black, you know, with the inside M390, but this was the JG10, and I could color this. And I thought, I'd like to do this in orange. I think this would look gorgeous in orange. I have some orange dye that I'd like to try this on. And so I thought, yeah, I'd like to do that. Well, lo and behold, this was released, and they had a special weekend sale and a coupon, and I bought it, and I got it, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. I see why it's so much fun. But had I bought it when it first came out, I might have paid a whole lot more and I've been a lot more critical and I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. Now that I got it for a great deal on a knife that I'm planning to experiment with some dyeing, I'm thinking like, no, this is great. This is great value for your money. And it's really, really fun, very useful, very fidgety. And see, I can get my middle finger here and I can do a reverse flick with the middle finger, get right on the blade because it's a full flat grind all the way up to the top. So it makes it really fun to reverse flick like that. So there's multiple deployments, but I was glad that I waited. I didn't get the newest one right away. I missed out, if you will. The Livewire, this first came out, everybody got it. I was finally able to get it when it finally came out. As you can see, this particular one, I think this is serial 1123, so they'd already, produced 1,122 versions before this. But I tell you, I'm not an OTF fan. I don't have a lot of OTFs. I had a Guardian Tactical. I liked it. It was my favorite. Then when I got this and the design, the thinness, everything about this, I was like, yeah, I really like this. And the Guardian Tactical, I was like, I like the Guardian Tactical, but again, OTFs aren't a blade shape or type that I have a ton of. I'm just not a huge fan of them. I know some of you guys love these, and that's cool. Go for it. Love your OTFs, right? I enjoy the one that I have, and this is more than enough for me. At this point in my knife career, this is enough, right? I don't need more than this, okay? This does everything that I want it to do for me right now. So I'm okay with that, right? It's okay to enjoy something like that. I didn't have to get the latest release as soon as it dropped, right? I didn't do that. Now, to be honest, I did for this one. When this first dropped, I was on Enrique Peña's email list, and he did a collab with Javi Garcia, and they dropped this, and I saw it. Everything I looked about this, I was like, oh, yes. And it's a Peña X series. I don't know if you can see that yet. Peña X series. Hasn't dropped to the main knife distributors yet, but it will be. They'll have different variants of this same knife. I use this knife, so it's a little dirty. There's no question about that. But they have different variations of this same knife going to different distributors down the road. I think it's a month or a couple of months or a few months out. But I was able to get this early because they had a special drop by Javi Garcia on his website that he did the collab with Enrique Peña. And Javi Garcia is the guy that's his design logo right there, if you didn't know. He makes custom slip joints and other knives, but everything about this knife, the ergos for the thumb studs is both for reverse and front flicking is gorgeous. And the ergonomic grip on this is just absolutely fantastic. You can even choke up the swedge up here. And this, I know this is sort of a drop point, I don't know, spear point. I don't know what you want to call this. It almost looks like a spear point coming together, right? Almost like a drop point too. But it's bellied, right? But it has, to me, it has a slight aesthetic of almost being a tanto shape. It's like a modified spear point, drop point, pseudo tanto. It's like you can almost see it right there. And it's just enough that I love that subtle kind of like, I want to be a tanto, but I don't want you to know that I want to be a tanto kind of look. I don't know if there's such a thing, but that's what I really, really, really like this design. I love this blade shape. And people talk about their favorite blade shapes, and there are a few for me, and this is one of them. I think, let me see. Okay, so I do like the tanto, with the hollow grind, the dual compound grind. I like this a lot too. That's really nice, but I do like this a lot. So this was one of those, I did get the drop on this as soon as it came out. And I was really happy I did. And now he had different variations with Damasteel and Damascus, and they were way more expensive, but I was happy with that. I love carbon fiber, exactly what I wanted. And I was just super psyched to get it. And I don't think I would have gotten it had I not gotten it on the first drop before the hype and everybody knew about it. So I was very glad that I got it, okay? And that was a good win there for me. Now, what is another knife? Oh yeah, so the Trogon. I really wanted the Trogon. I kind of sat on the edge on this one because I had a Brian Brown Raptor version 2. I liked that a lot, but I didn't love it. Like, I really like this. This is like my favorite WE design out there. And I don't know, there's some new ones coming out that I really want to get in on, but right now this is my favorite WE design, and it's my favorite Brian Brown design. I love how we executed this for Brian. Everything about the swedge up here, everything about the hollow grind. There's a hollow grind here, if you can see that dual flat grind on the tip. The action is beautiful. The fuller here works beautifully for reverse deploy, front deploy. Even if I wanted to do the finger here, I can do that. Everything, the clip, everything, the design, the lines, this bronze anodized, and the milling on this texture is just, everything's fantastic. This is great design. I missed out on that. You know why? Because the one that I did get was this Makani from Wii, and this is a limited edition. And I wasn't disappointed. I like this knife a lot. I love this knife. Matter of fact, it's really, really great. Hand satin finish right here. Got a little dirt on there, I think. Oh no, I got a scratch. That's right. This one got that scratch right after I got it. That was kind of a bummer. Is it a scratch? Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was. But anyways, beautiful, beautiful knife. I enjoyed this knife. I love the thin blade. It's rounded around here. The action on this one is very nice too. Very, very nice. I thought of putting maybe skiff washers in there, but the action was just beautiful right off the top, and it used to just drop shut, and I think I need to put a little oil because I wasn't carrying it right away. And I like the very subtle fire anodized titanium. I know some people hate that. They you know, if it's not Timascus, it's crap. I get that. If that's your thing, then don't buy it, right? But I like this. It's subtle. It's small enough, and you know, tasteful enough to me that it looks nice, right? Even around the pivot collar here, I like that, and I love the blade shape here again. And I guess that's sort of similar with the drop point. I don't know. No, it's not, because the other one's. But anyways, I like this blade shape a lot too, and I love this design, and I love the fidget factor on this. I liked it, but I'd already kind of invested in this, so I couldn't really spend more money, and so I waited on this one because I already had a Raptor. And then I decided I need to get it, right? I started reading all the reviews. You should get this. So I finally got a hold of it, and thank goodness, I thought this was a limited edition, so there wasn't a chance to get another one. But then I realized this wasn't a limited edition like this one is. Now, they have more of these, but they're different variations of it, right? This, they only released, I think, let's see, what does it say? 210. You can see that right there, 210 versions. And mine is 58 of 210. So yeah, I've got 58 of 210. I think one of my subscribers is 56 of 210. He has the same one, right? I'm 58. So he got 2 before me, which is cool, or 54. I don't know, one of those 2. But this one wasn't limited edition, so I was happy I could get a hold of this. So that was really exciting. I was glad to get it, but I missed it. But I almost missed out on it, but I was glad it wasn't limited edition. So that's cool. Well, one of the ones that I got recently, and it was a real bummer. And the reason why it was a bummer was because when I got it, I think I had maybe a QC issue with it. And because it was so popular, once I sent it back, I wasn't going to get a replacement. They were all sold out. It was the Sharp by Design, the Brian Nadeau new design, the Mini Evo. Really cool knife. I really liked it. Everything about it spoke to me aesthetically. Super light, very small, very thin blade. Much thinner than the Mini Tempest that I had. But I had a little issue with this detent nub, and I know I had another video on this, and a lot of you commented, and I get that. And I think it's more of a QC issue because I've had his knives before, and I love his unique detent that he has on there. It's not a detent ball, a ceramic ball, it's a nub that he builds in, and then it locks in behind the blade in a certain way. And normally it's supposed to give you a crisper break on the detent, but mine would get locked in, it couldn't break. It literally gets stuck. And I think it was either QC on the nub itself or the blade. But being that I spent almost $400 on the knife, I was not going to take it apart and take the chance that I could fix it and then screw it up. That's just too much money to screw around with, right? So I reached out and I asked Brian about it, and he said, yeah, he would look at it. But the problem was, I just don't have the funds for that kind of knife just to try. And I looked more and more, I started reading all the different reviews, and everyone, they had that double click. And so it sounded like this particular design was very intentional. Now, mind you, the Mini Evo is a much smaller blade than the Mini Tempest and some of the other knives that are much larger. This was a very thin blade. I think it's like 0.1 or it's 0.1 or 0.01 or 0.09 or so. It's a very thin blade for his, and it's a relatively smaller knife. I would probably put it in the size of, not quite that, maybe more in the size of something like that, right? But a much thinner blade than this, and shorter blade. So needless to say, I ended up sending it back to DLT. DLT didn't have any replacements for it, which was unfortunate. And the other knives that reviews, they had the double click, and I think it was more of a, because it was so much smaller than the other ones, and it was a thinner, lighter blade, that could be part of the issue of clearing that detent nub, which, I get it. That's a design aesthetic, but if I'm going to spend that kind of money on a knife, I carry my knives. I use my knives. I don't collect because, ooh, that's a Sharp by Design, I'm going to put it in my collection, never touch it. I don't do that. I know some people do, and that's totally cool. If that's your thing, go for it, right? I like to use my knives. If I were to buy, like let's say I bought a Trevor Berger custom design, or I bought maybe an Enrique Pena or Javi Garcia full custom, I would use those knives. I would want to use those knives if I'm going to buy them. I'm not going to buy them and then just put them away and never use them, right? I want to use the knives. And I just wasn't cool with doing that with that knife. And I have too much respect for Brian, and I know he had intent with that, and I know there's going to be a lot of people, I know there are a lot of people who are very happy with it, love that crispy detent nub, and if they decide that they look at it and they say, yeah, you know what, that really was, it was a QC thing, we're going to send it back to Brian. Or they can say, no, this is how they all are. Then I'll be like, okay, cool. I opened it, put it back in the box, send it back to you, because that's not a tool that I can use safely and comfortably, and so I'm going to pass on that. I'm going to ask that I just get my money back, and then we'll buy something else, right? Because that is just too much to spend on something that you're hoping you can make yourself like it. I've been down that road. I bought a Rick Hendra Jurassic, and beautiful knife, great design. I tried to force my love of that knife. I bought a Chris Reeve Umnumzon. Beautiful knife, love the design. Everything about it is just very awesome, right? It just wasn't for me. I tried to make myself like it, and everyone's, that's the holy grail of, got to get a Rick Hendra, a Chris Reeve, and a Spartan blade. I can tell you, I'm not a Spartan blade fan. I've held them at stores. I've held them at gun shows. I've held them I'd love to go to a knife show and touch all of their other knives, but it's just not my cup of tea. The design aesthetics doesn't speak to me. I'm not a big fan of the washer, the glossy, the smooth, glassy kind of flow like you have with the Chris Reeve knives. Just not a fan of that. I like washers. I like snap. I like that my Spyderco Para 3 and my Spyderco Paramilitary 2 and my Shaman can all drop shut. I can then snap them open like I can, like it's on washers. On washers. Excuse me. But I'm okay if I can do that, right? I saw, I think Metal Complex had a Les George button lock. It looked amazing, and the action looked phenomenal, and it was in washers. And I could say, yeah, that I would do, but that I can't do because it's so expensive, such a limited run. He's not producing these. These are custom Les George knives, so you're probably talking $1,500, $2,000. I don't have that kind of money, right? I would love to buy that kind of knife, but I'm not willing to sell 4, 5, 6 knives to buy one of those and then wait, half a year and a half, 2 years, whatever, to find it. It's not for me, right? I like to use my knives. I want to use my knives. So for me, it's like, did I get the latest drop? There's a couple of knives I would love to get my hand on. I would love to get the TW Price designs. I would love to get the what is it? He names them after like the Mortal Kombat guy. Radon. Yeah, the Radon. And he has another one that's really cool. I would love to get those. I haven't made the drops for them. For a long time, I was missing all the drops on the EMP EDCs, and I finally got in on those, so I was real excited about that. I was missing a lot of drops elsewhere, I would love to get an Andrew Demko 8020 USA-made version of this. I would love to get that. But I've yet to ever find when it's dropped. That one's even harder to find than a Rick Hendra, right? So I love that design. I wouldn't mind getting a bigger, thicker, sturdier one. I think that would be super cool. There are a few other knives I would love to try, but there's just some knives that I look at them and I go, man, that looks really cool. Everyone's talking about it. It's really cool. But when I look at some of the things that I would have to overcome, and I know some of the aesthetics that I like for myself, sometimes I just don't want to get the latest one. I want to hear a little chatter about the knife. I want to see, is that going to work for me? The knife will probably be phenomenal for a ton of people, but is it going to work for me? So did I get the latest drop from put knife designer name here, right? Sometimes I don't. No, I didn't. And sometimes there are a few that I really do try to find because they're amazing. There's knives I would love, love, love to have in my collection. But sometimes they're just not possible because when they do drop, I've just bought other knives and I have no money, or they're asking too much money than I'm willing to spend at the time or can spend, right? And I don't want to do that so that I'm completely destroyed just trying to find a knife, right? I would love to get certain knives, but there's some knives that I don't know. It just seems next to impossible to be able to spend that kind of money on, and I don't know. So, oh yeah, there's one that I got. I got the Arnaud Bernard Imamba. I found the website where I think South African Sporting Goods, they actually are the distributor in USA for Arnaud Bernard, which are made in South Africa, and they're phenomenal knives. It is you can call it, people don't call it, they don't call it custom because, if you have any machining work, then it's called, production knife, but I don't know about that. That to me, it's like, I even see Herman and Koenig and all those guys use some production machines. So, you can't tell me those aren't, I even know, the Brown knives, the FSD, he uses some machines on that. So you can tell me that's not a custom knife? I don't know. I don't agree with that you can't call that a custom knife, but needless to say, that Arnaud Bernard, it's touched 200 times by the three brothers who are the son of Arnaud Bernard, who's the father, and it's a beautiful knife. To me, it's the ceramic ball bearing version of a Chris Reeve Sebenza, and I love it. And so I'm happy with it, right? I'm just really love that knife. I can't quite reach it here, but I pull it out. But that to me is something that I was able to get, but it was one of those that was dropped and I don't think everybody knew about it. And so then I started telling some folks, and I know, for instance, Tri-State, he liked it. He bought one and he was in love with it. And I know a few other people who did. Now, that same knife, mind you, Lefty EDC, he likes strong detents. And that's really important to him. And I can respect that, right? He and I aren't quite the same in that aesthetic, right? So if I find a knife that's really strong detent and I may not be a fan, I know Lefty's going to probably like that. But if he finds a knife that's really, really strong, really light with a detent that he thinks is too weak, then I perk up a little bit and I go, I wonder if that's something for me, right? And the Imamba was one of those. He felt it was a little too weak, and I don't think he tunes his detents a whole lot. I do, and I'm willing to tune just about any detent. But that one it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. Buttery smooth. I mean, it was just one of those knives that's just fantastic right out of the box. Love that knife, and I've carried it. I've got some scratches, some dings, some little rub marks on them. But hey, I used the knife, right? I have a Leon Ma GSD, Get Stuff Done. I'm not going to give the real name for it. Version 2, beautiful knife with fat carbon space coral inlays. I love using that knife. I really do. It's a great knife. It's one of my favorites, and I carry it all the time. Yeah, it's a little expensive. It's definitely a high-end knife, but I'm going to carry that. I was able to get that. It was available at the time, and I was able to get it. I was super excited to get a hold of that. There's a few other knives that I have that I've really enjoyed, and I have in my collection that just really are. I didn't get them at the drop, but there are some that I wouldn't mind getting at the drop. But again, I want to support things. I don't get pre-release prototype access to any knives. I'm way too small of a channel, and maybe someday, keep dreaming, right? Someday I'll be big enough that maybe somebody will consider sending a prototype to me. That would be such an honor, right? It really would be. But if that happens, then yeah, I might be able to say, hey, you should get this early because I got a chance to handhold it. There's a few knives that I've bought, and there's a few reviewers that I listen to that I really like. Here's one. Neves Knives. He talked about the Caviezo collab with Ray Laconico. It's called a Keen. Caviezo is the one that basically what Drop used to be. And they actually have the Keen, and then they're going to make a mini Keen. So if the Keen's too big for anybody, check out the mini Keen. Should be dropping in April, I think. But the Keen, he talked about it, and I thought, everything he talked about, I thought, yeah, I'm going to give that a try. Because he really described a lot of details, and so I did. Super happy with it. Love that knife. It's in my collection. I've done a lot of shorts with it and done videos with it. Really, really one of my enjoyable carries, right? It's not super expensive, but it's done well, executed well. Just really fantastic. And it's one of those knives, as a result, that I highly recommend, okay? I didn't get the drop on there. Now, the mini Keen is supposed to be dropping. Maybe that's worth looking into and getting the drop. I'm on their mailing list. If I get an email, I might go look to buy it, right? Because I really like the Keen, and I can only imagine if the size is right, it would be a perfect knife for myself. If not, a gift for my wife. I think she would enjoy it. I think they're going to make them in purple too, like they did with the drop, because they saw some drop versions of the same size for lefties. And if it's in purple, that would be like a perfect knife for my wife, right? She loves purple, and she's a lefty. So there you go. And again, getting back to, did I get the latest drop? Yeah, I don't always get the latest drop. I don't. I would love to. If I had unlimited funds, I had a black MasterCard with unlimited budget, and I never have to worry about making a payment, yeah, I'd probably get a whole lot more knives. But I don't. And so here we are. We're looking at what you see. They're knives I enjoy. They're part of my collection. They're things I use. I will always keep looking, hoping to find a knife and maybe find it at the right time when it's available and I have the funds and I actually can make the transaction fast enough before it gets sniped out of my inbox and I can buy it. I can tell you, I've looked at a few knives that I almost bought, and by the time I went to purchase, they were gone. So it happens. You got to be fast here. There's some people who literally will buy them. For instance, I would really love to get the Microsoft MSI. I have been waiting for that. That's one of those knives that I want terribly. But they keep dropping them and they sell it so fast. And now, I wonder if there's a bot or something that buys them and resells them, because you see them pop up all the time for twice the value as resale. If you're buying them just to resell them like that, if you're making money, great. I'm glad you're doing it. I'm glad it works for you, and I'm glad people are willing to pay for it. I'm not. And like one of my holy grails, if you will, I call it my Bigfoot knives. So you have holy grails, right? And then I have a category. I've changed it to Bigfoot knives. I'm gonna do a little Rob's rambling on that one, but it's my Bigfoot knife. It's the ProTech Mordax, and if I can get to a blade show, maybe when ProTech's selling it, maybe I can find one there. But it's kind of like finding the right forest where the Bigfoot lives, right? I hear stories about it. I see pictures of it. Like, people have seen the Mordax. People have owned it. I used to own one. I owned a drop version. I sold it to my neighbor, and I did that because I thought I would be able to find the Mordax MagnaCut version, because ProTech said they were dropping them. I didn't realize they were going to drop such limited, small quantities all the time, so that you had to be within the first 3 seconds to be able to buy it. Real bummer, but I've yet to find it. So it's my Bigfoot, it's my Yeti, it's my Loch Ness Monster. So that being said, that's my Bigfoot, that's my Loch Ness Monster. That's one of those knives I would love to get a hold of. I'd love to see the McNeese Mac 2 3.5 inch one. Yet to see one of those. I would love to. What's the other one? There's another one. The Microtech MSI. I would love to get that. Those are going to be knives that, I would like to get, but I'm not going to pay twice for the knife as much as I want it. If that happens, now, so I'll tell you one thing that happened with that. The Mordax, I have actually bought, and it's in my box over here, I have actually bought a WE Knives Mini Malice. It is a Fair & Forge design, like the Mordax. Mordax is designed by Fair & Forge. I love that knife. It's a smaller version of it, and it's really nice. It's a button lock. And it's become my consolation knife. And I'm kind of okay not getting the Mordax at this point. Yeah, I'm going to keep looking. If I can finally find it, I'll maybe try to buy it. But I'm not going to, if it's going to show up when I can't afford it, or if I'm never going to find it, then I won't own it, right? I don't want to buy a secondary market, because I have had some offers to buy it, and I really appreciate it from the wonderful people, but I believe there's a 20 CV version, and I don't want a 20 CV version. I don't want a drop version. I want the MagnaCut version, and I want the newest MagnaCut version that has the 63, 64 Rockwell hardness, right? So that's the one I'm looking for. But I would still like to get it, but it is my Yeti. It's one knife that I don't think I may never get, right? MSI is going to be like that. I think the McNeese Mac 2 is going to be like that. So I kind of accept that. I accept it for what it is. I was super excited that I was able to get the Mini Evo, but I was so bummed when I had the defective one. And of course, as soon as I went back to look, they were sold out. So there you go. So maybe one of these days, you take a chance and you find the right one. So where do you stand on this? How about you guys? Do you get the latest drop all the time? Do you have to get the latest drop? I'm kind of curious where you stand on that. Is that something that you must get that, or you feel somehow you missed out on life? Or is it like, hey, if I get it, great. If I don't, whatever. Or do you just kind of wait and you buy it secondhand or something? And because there's some knives that you can't buy secondhand. Like, I mean, if I go to Blades Forum right now, two things are going to happen. Someone is going to realize that what this is, and they're going to offer me, if I go and sell this as retail price, say, hey, I'd like $375 for this, right? It should, by all intents and purposes, if someone realizes what this is and they're looking for this and they realize the shape that's in, and I show them the pictures and it really is in fantastic shape, it's not beat up, banged up, scratched, scuffed, or anything like that, I should be able to sell it for $375, boom, it'll be bought, right? Now, if the right person who's looking for the knife is not there, what inevitably happens, it drops down in the sale, and that person who's looking for it may miss it and not know that it's for sale. And then you have the people who come in and says, oh yeah, I'll buy that off of you. And this is going to be another Rob's Rambling. It's a lowball offers, right? I'll buy that off of you. I'll give you $140 for that knife. And you're like, I'm sorry, this is a $375 knife. I am not going to lose, $250 on a knife. I'm not that desperate for the money. There are other knives that I will sell at ridiculous price if I really need it to generate emergency cash to buy another knife. This is not one of them, right? No, that's not going to happen. Not with that one. There are other knives that I'd be willing to do that with, but not that one, right? And also the 9 right now. I really like this. I mean, I can't tell you how many meetings that I've been in. When I get in budget meetings, I can literally just sit here and flick this all day long, and my hand doesn't get tired. Of course, I'm talking and trying to do this at the same time, so I don't want to make sure I walk and chew gum at the same time. I don't want to fall, right? But there's just some knives I don't want to sell, right? I have my Pyrite limited edition. It's a titanium scale black with a black micarta inlay and the S35VN blade steel. Some people have offered to buy that. You want to sell it? And I'm like, I really don't. It's a limited edition. I was able to get one, and I really like that knife a lot. So I don't want to sell that, right? I want to keep a hold of that one. It's one of my favorites, but let's say I came up and they had a special new version from Artisan Cutlery, something that was even better than the Pyrite, and somebody still wanted to buy it. Yeah, I'd probably sell it so I can get that. Yeah, sure. But it has to be something that meets my aesthetic and what I desire, right? If Kunwu came out with a different version, like a Pulsar that just had some different aesthetics that was different than this and I loved, and someone said, hey, I'll buy that off you, yeah, I'd sell it so I could get that. But right now, I don't know of anything that I would want to replace that with. I like that knife. I really enjoy it, I'm not attached to it emotionally or anything like I am with my father's knife that he bought before World War II. That's a special knife. That's a Queen Save. That's one I would never sell, right? So there's that. But most of these knives I'm not that attached to. Some of them I enjoy, and I know they're hard to get. And I don't want to give up this knife so I can't find another one I can enjoy as much as this one, right? This is a fun knife, Now, I could probably do another Rob's Rambling on, are there any knives that I would never sell if I absolutely had to for the sake of my family, my kids, or something like that? The reality is, here's the truth. My kids are number one. My wife is number one. If I needed to sell every single one of my knives in my collection to protect, to take care, to do something for surgery, let me just be real honest with you guys. The channel would be over. I would close it down. I would sell every single knife if I had to for the sake of my kids. No questions asked. I would do that. No questions asked. They are more important to me than any material thing, all right? So I just want to be real clear about that. They are not more important than the material things. That being said, that scenario has not come up, and I don't anticipate that scenario coming up, right? I mean, could it come up? Yeah, and you already answered what I would choose to do. But let's hope it doesn't come up, right? And I can continue to keep some of these knives, right? Now, if the situation came up, did I need to get rid of some of the knives for some emergency, or would I be willing to sell half my knives to buy that one Grail custom knife? Say I had a chance to buy a Herman, or a Sheer Goroff, or I don't know. I can't think in my head right now some of the other knives I would consider buying, but those are two that keep popping up in my head. If there were, yeah, I would have to consider what would I be willing to sell, because realistically, I can have some great knives. If the right buyer's looking for them, I can get a decent price, a fair price, right? But if no right buyers are looking for them, I'm going to get nothing but low balls. And again, that's another Rob's rambling. We can talk about that later, but that's just a reality, right? So when you get the latest drop, sometimes you get into the situation where you get a knife that may not be that great. It sure seemed it didn't live up to the hype, right? It's not the knife that you wanted. It's cool, but it's not the knife. This one lived up to the hype for sure, right? I was super excited about that. This one lived up to the hype for sure. Super excited about that one. This one, for some, is really not going to live up to the hype. People are just not going to be able to get over that clip. But if you're willing to fix that clip, this knife absolutely lives up to the hype. It really does. If you fix the clip, I think so. This one lives up to the hype. This is great, absolutely great. But I think they're going to make enough of these that are not going to be ridiculously out of not available. But I always wonder, as they make more of these, are the first production ones the best ones, and do they lose some of their quality? I don't know. This one was fantastic. This one blew me away. I was really surprised about that. This one lived up to the hype. I wish I'd gotten in on the hype a little sooner, but this one absolutely lived up to the hype. One of my favorites, right? This one lived up to the hype. I wish I had gotten this one. Yeah, and I did. And I was really happy that I did. It's one of those knives that made this really worthwhile. So there you go. All right. Well, that's a little bit about my get the drop. Did you get the drop? And again, I would love to hear your comments down below. Please, please, please feel free to ask any questions. Leave a comment. Let me hear your stories from you, where you're at. I do try to answer all of those, and I love to interact and talk with you guys, so please do that. And again, if you enjoyed this content, if you enjoyed what I found it fun, interesting, or worthwhile, would you please consider liking the video? And if you've already liked the video, would you please consider subscribing to my channel? Liking and subscribing really, really helps the channel out. Helps me out a lot to produce more content. I'd really appreciate that. And if you've already subscribed, would you consider hitting the notification button so you can be notified of future content when I drop it? And if you've done all that, maybe check me out over on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives. Again, that's on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives. Hey, thanks so much for watching today. Have a great day and a great week. Bye.